Hello, everyone. This is Rosie, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of my podcast called My Intrusive Thoughts. Before I start with anything, before I say anything, I just want to point out that this episode is purely for the sake of my own indulgence. This is purely for the sake of me having a space to just talk about this because everybody else around me right now is busy with their lives, and I've just had a pretty life changing experience in regards to this topic that I'm discussing today. And it may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but to me it is. And I just want to share it with people who have similar experiences, who feel the same way, all across the globe. So here I am. And yeah, let's get started. So, a lot of you people who are regular, listeners of my podcast, and some of you who actually know me in real life, know the fact that I am a BTS ARMY, and I have been for almost 7 years now. So that has pretty much dominated my personality. it is a personality trait at this point, right? Liking BTS music, supporting them, cheering them on. It's part of the personality. It just, it comes with it. It just comes with the package. Anyway, so I feel like supporting them and becoming an army itself has been such a life-changing experience for me because not only did it open up, incredible doors, which led to incredible experiences in terms of meeting new people, learning a whole new language, and just experiencing a different culture, and also changing my view on life, on people, on how, I can be a better person. And yes, it sounds all very dramatic when you think of it in, the bigger picture. You're like, how can seven guys, making music and dancing change your life? But the fact is that they did. And it all started with me coming across this video of Park Jimin, one of the BTS members, running across a field in what appeared to be autumn with his candy pink hair. And then he turns around and he reaches his hand out. And oh my god, I was sold. That is all I needed to be sold. Because everything about that teaser, that MV, and I'm talking about Spring Day, if you don't know, it's one of their songs. And it talks about friendship and longing and how to put it, the sadness you feel when you're apart from somebody that you love, and that urge to, get to them, to be able to either go back in time or, just a place, a time where you could be together. And it's such a beautiful song. And when I heard that song, I was not really very fluent in Korean, so I had to Google the lyrics and, translate them. And they were beautiful, and I was just sold, okay? The way they express, the way they talk about their emotions, the way the melodies, sort of entwine with the concepts and with the visuals and with the voices that they have, like everything works such beautifully together. They have such a beautiful synergy as a group, as individuals who sort of click together. I was just, instantly in love. And I haven't looked back since then. I've just fallen more and more in love with their craft. And as I got to know them better, I fell for them not only as a group, but as individuals, as people of the society who have distinct values and opinions, and people who just, want to be better. And I think that has been such an inspiration for me as a person, just watching them accept and acknowledge the things that they did, and doing that, on such a global level. Because they're not just, some Korean band living in Seoul and making music. Now they're a global act at this point, 5 times Grammy nominated, and, winners of so many different awards. And, you know, just watching them lead life the way they do in the spotlight, and also whilst doing all of that, for them to be able to maintain this innocence, this, personality, this realness, that they have. The fact that they're still the same that they were before debut. The fact, yes, they've grown up, obviously, they've matured as people, but you can find the same little quirks and, you know, just the same little habits that they had, and just the same personalities, that they had before. And fame and all this global attention did not take away that from them, because at the end of the day, they're just like seven guys who like to chill together and make food and talk and laugh together and make music because that's what they love doing. So it has given me inspiration. It has warmed my heart. It has cheered me up on my bad days, just watching them interact together, just watching them playing games together, just watching them troll each other. Because they somehow became this perfect family for me, this this safe space for me where I could see that there is good in this world. Just watching them interact with each other, watching them look out for each other, watching them support each other, watching them, lead each other when they're feeling down. It just made me believe that goodness exists, that, there are people who are selfless. Anyways, I'm probably going to be going on different rants and off tangent a lot during this video because when it comes to BTS, I can talk for days, I think. And, I was actually planning to do like this little series about BTS because I know for sure that I cannot just, talk about BTS in one episode. It has to be a whole series. So I'm planning to do that, but for now, I want to focus on this particular album that I'm about to review for you guys. And before I talk about the album and the singer himself, I want to touch upon the dynamics of the group for now. So we have seven members, right? Uh, do I do the fan chant? Okay, let me just do it. Kim Nam Jun, Kim Sok Jin, Min Yoon Gi, Jung Ho Suk. I'm just laughing at myself. Park Jimin, Kim Tae Young, Jung Jungkook, BTS. Anyways, so these are the seven members, and basically, for the past year, they have not been doing any group activities. They are on sort of a break, and this is called the chapter 2 of BTS because they're focusing more on their solo projects. And when the news broke out, it was, chaos because every media outlet was just licking it up and just twisting their words, and it was just a whole mess. I remember my timeline was crazy that day because, and even BTS, they were so, weirded out by how the media had taken the whole thing because they are very honest, as far as band fan relationship is concerned, artist fan relationship is concerned. They're very open with armies. And so they did this like whole talk where they sat down and they basically just, confessed whatever they felt. It was such a heartfelt conversation. And then the media went and made a whole deal out of it. But, anyways, after that, they started, pursuing their own solo careers whilst also, you know, cheering for each other, supporting each other, and they are bound to come back in 2025, which recently has been, clarified that 2025 is not the goal. So it's just a tentative date. But obviously, when they, they have to enlist as well. So when they get back from their enlistments, they would need some time to adjust back and then, regroup and everything. So we're hoping that at the very earliest, we're probably going to be getting a full OT7 BTS, schedule or, what is it called, activity by 2026, 2027. But we don't, we're not concerned about that because as armies, we know that they are always going to be there for each other. They're going to come together. There's nothing, no power in the world can stop BTS from being BTS. Anyway, so far we've had two other members who have come out with their own albums, and these albums have been more about their individual tastes, their individual sort of, ideas as an artist, their own personalities, basically. And it has been so much fun watching them sort of grow into these artists that they are as individuals because we know them as a band and they work beautifully. They have great music ethics, artistic, sense and everything. But as individuals, it's just, every member has a certain personality, that they have tried to bring out in these solo works, and it has worked wonderfully for them. So far we've had Namjoon, or better known as RM. He just recently released his album called Indigo, and then we have J-Hope's album called Jack in the Box that came out, and both of them have worked so hard on these albums, and these albums have done wonderfully. And now it was the turn for Mr. Park Jimin to release his music. And we had no idea actually. We did not know this was under works for a long time until around February that yeah, that's last month, right? Last month he announced that he was gonna actually, you know, release his own album. And since they started working, on solo projects, we have had this idea that yes, every member is probably working on some stuff and we're going to be hearing about this anytime. But this was so sudden and it just kind of basically threw everybody off because if we know something about Park Jimin, it's the fact that he strives for perfection. This guy is not going to rest until he has perfected everything to a T. So for him to be like, oh, I'm ready to introduce this work of mine to the public, it's a huge deal. And I feel like just that fact alone was what made everybody so excited to be finally able to hear his works. Now, for those of you who don't know who Park Jimin is, let me introduce him to you in my own way. So, Park Jimin, he is the kindest, most humble, most grounded, most beautiful soul that you could ever think of. And I know that I don't know him personally, but you don't need to know somebody personally to know that they're a nice person. It's just the way he smiles, it's just the way he interacts with people, and I've watched him interact with people of all sorts over 7 years. And I think watching him at least makes me assured that this guy is not a human being, but an angel in disguise. Because how can a person be so cute? How can a person be so nice? How can a person be so inherently lovely? He's the kind of person that when you think about them, you just automatically smile because they exude niceness, they exude happiness. They're the kind of people that when you think about them makes you believe that good exists. They make you feel like the world is a better place. And I know you could probably tell that he's my bias. I am an OT7 ARMY, I love them all, but there's just something about Jimin that touches my heart. Like, we have a connection, okay? We have just a unspoken bond that we share. And so when I saw him for the first time in that Spring Day music video, I just instantly fell in love just with his innocence. He just has this little, not little, a lot of this aura where you just want to wrap him up in bubble paper, and just protect him because he's too pure. He's just too good for this world. And when you watch him interact with armies, when you watch him interact with other people, you get to know that he just has so much love to give. He just always wants to make sure that people around him are comfortable, are happy, and he's just that kind of person, okay? So that is the person we're talking about today. And this angel, better known as Park Jimin or Mochi or Chim Chim, okay, there are so many names that we've had for him over the years. But this guy just came out with a whole album, a whole solo album. And, you know, I've watched him for 7 years, as an ARMY. And I remember that when having solo projects was not even on the table, right? And sometimes they would get asked about what they would like to do if they had the chance. This guy always talked about how he wanted to show off his true self to the world, which is apart from what he is, in BTS. And it made sense because as BTS, they all have certain roles to play, right? He's a vocalist, RM is a rapper. So, and yes, they do sort of influence each other. They have a very sort of, fluid relationship when it comes to their music as a band, because they talk about stuff. They are very, they communicate, they talk about things, and it's very healthy. It's all healthy and nice, and what you would want to have in your life sort of relationship. But as an artist, sometimes you just want to, explore things on your own, right? And he wanted to do that. In order to do that, he needed to have that space where he doesn't have to fit into a mold. Because with a group, you have to sort of mold yourself at times, right? And he didn't want that. There was always this sense of wanting to break free, break out of his shell that he talked about when he wanted to solo music. And he finally did. He finally did. And boy, it has been an amazing, amazing, amazing thing to watch this guy bloom into this artist that he is today. And after listening to this album, I respected him as a BTS member. I respected him as, a very influential, very talented artist. But now I don't know. It feels like we have developed a better, more personal connection almost, because this album is so raw. This album just speaks to you on a very personal, very innate level. It touches some heartstrings that you don't know that you had or that existed. And for somebody to, take all the feelings, all the emotions that you're feeling, and then portray them in a song, in an album, in a way that you are just, you're starstruck, you are spellbound, because they are so true, they're so raw, they are so honest that you can't tell if it's somebody else, or, if it's you yourself who wrote these things, or, you know. So it has been an amazing experience to listen to this album, and we'll talk about that. So first of all, let me just introduce this album. It's called Face, and it just got released yesterday, 24th of March, and it comprises of 5 songs, and all of them are co-written by Jimin, and on 3 of them, Namjoon is also credited for writing. And it's been like just the fact that he has actively participated in everything. I was, reading an article about the process of this album, and how it came together, and it said that Jimin participated in everything from, the jacket shoots to the music video concepts to the themes to the writing the lyrics to producing. He even went to the US himself to oversee the choir recording for one of the songs called Set Me Free, and it has like an orchestra sort of vibe to it. So he went to the US himself to sort of be part of that. So it was a very personal affair for him, and he had, time and again expressed this to armies and to people that this album showcased his inner self, and so it was very personal and very raw and very honest. And he was very nervous about it, because I read an interview where he was like, I don't know how people are going to take this, because this is Jimin away from the stage. This is Jimin away from the spotlight. And some people might not like this Jimin, and some people might. But, if I were to give an honest opinion, I feel like I relate with this Jimin so much more than I could ever imagine relating to the Jimin on stage performing for 60,000 people in a stadium. Because this Jimin went through things that I personally went through. And listening to this album, reading these lyrics, they made me feel heard. They made me feel like I was not the only person going through these things, and I felt acknowledged. And I can't express how good that felt. So the album is called Face, and well, face could mean a lot of things, right? Face is your face, basically, but also it can mean to confront, to acknowledge, to sort of come face to face with something. And for Jimin, this album meant exactly that. He said in an interview that it is basically how he felt during the COVID, pandemic, and all his thoughts and everything that he went through during that time, and just the, you know, mind space that he was in, and he wanted to dive in and sort of confront that inner him. He said that when he was thinking about this, he actually talked to the other members, and they were all, like, why don't you write about all this stuff and just, make music out of that? Because that would be a better way for you to convey these things instead of just like talking about it. And that's true, because now this is not just him and his story, but it's become our story. And I love that. I love the fact that we can bond over this. We can talk about this. This has given way to a lot of people expressing their feelings or having the chance or the platform to talk about it. Because I feel like during this pandemic, a lot of us went through different experiences and we never really got to talk about it. We just kind of, you know, when the lockdown lifted, everybody just went back to their normal lives, but it wasn't normal anymore. This was a new normal, and it definitely generated a lot of different emotions in all of us, which we were not familiar with, which we did not see coming. And so just having this album and listening to these songs and these lyrics and knowing that somebody else out there was going through the same things, and so I'm not the only one who feels lost, who feels like I don't fit in anymore. So that's very reassuring in itself. Anyway, so there are like 5 songs on this album called, I'm gonna list them off from, in a chronological order, because according to Jimin, you gotta listen to it in a chronological order because it's all connected. And when I heard the album, I realized what he was talking about. So first of all, we have Face Off, and then we have Interlude, Dive, and then we have Like Crazy. After that, we have Alone, and after that, we have Set Me Free Part 2, and the album closes off with the English version of Like Crazy. And for those of you who have ordered the physical album, you get a surprise that is a hidden track called Letter, Pyonji, that basically Jimin has written for armies. And I just heard that song earlier and I cried. I like bawled my eyes out because the lyrics are beautiful. And if you haven't heard that, you probably should go buy the physical album, or I mean, it's available on YouTube, I guess, by now, so you could give it a listen if you don't want to buy the album. But I would highly suggest you buy this album. You will not regret it. Like I've said before, the album is basically inspired and influenced by Jimin's experience during the lockdown and what he felt through. So, in the album, he says that he describes the album as face, the reflection of myself in an unfamiliar appearance, face of facing the deepest part of inner self, an echo, tremor, and small movement to reach you. Waves originated from the deepest invisible inner world, pass through the face on the surface and reach others to resonate while transmitting the inner voice. Wave spreads beautifully, finding its own flow despite wounds and distortions from the smallest scratch, the face of unwavering effort despite repeated fails and pain. Now, this is intense, as far as what the premise of the album is, because it's a lot of inner dilemmas. It's a lot of fighting your inner self, your intrusive thoughts, everything inside you that you normally don't want the world to see. So it's a huge step you know in the way of facing yourself, in the way of setting yourself free from all these things, in front of in the journey of breaking free and finding your freedom and yourself, and on this journey of becoming the artist that he is individually. So it was very significant in that sense. But also, when I was researching for this album, I came across this really amazing phenomenon, because if you've seen the jacket of the album, it showcases like these circular waves, like when you drop something into a pool of water and then these waves form, those circular waves. That's the kind of like concept the jacket has, and it says face on it. So I was just thinking of that, and then it says on the album as well that it's about circle of resonance. And I just realized this one theory that I had read about on some paper about sociology, and it was about the circle of resonance being about relationships, right? And apparently the definition of it is that a reflection of vulnerable minds and unexposed wounds, right? Resonance can be defined as a form of world relation in which subject and world meets and transform each other. So basically, it's one entity influencing the other. And how do they do that? They do it through emotions, they do it through affection, and it constitutes of a very experiential sort of relationship that is based on response rather than echoing. And what does that mean? That implies that in a relationship, it's not important for you to mimic each other, right? It's important for you to fit together in a way that you have autonomy, but you have a synergistic effect. You create synergy, right? And because of the nature of these relationships, they cannot be taken for granted. And you can't expect them to just happen, organically, because you need to work for them. You need to have the perfect setup. You need to be able to have somebody reciprocate those feelings, those emotions as well. And also, if you've heard of resonance, you cannot always predict them to turn out the way you want. So I know it's a lot of scientific jargon, but what it kind of boils down to is the fact that resonance means to bring together two entities that are going to amplify each other, right? According to physics, resonance is a phenomenon that only comes into being when and if, through the vibration of one body, the frequency of another body is stimulated. And that kind of makes sense, when you look at this album, and it's so clever how they used this to sort of portray what Jimin wanted to say. Because what he's essentially doing is that he's breaking free from whatever is holding him back inside him. And as he does so, as he vibrates, as he gains energy to set himself free, he's also sort of starting a chain reaction, right? Because the strength and the power that he gets whilst facing himself, he's also projecting it on us, the listeners, his fans, because when we get to see him, try and strive to be his best self, we also want to try and be our best selves. And that is beautiful. That is such a brilliant way to bring about, thoughts, and to bring about what he thinks and what he wants to achieve. And it's, I think, Nobody could have done that. Nobody other than Jimin could have done this. Whilst working on this album, Jimin has played with a lot of different genres. So initially, this is a hip hop, R&B, pop album, but he has also experimented with trap, soul, and synth pop as well. And so it's a great mixture that showcases his range. And he has used these artistic tools in such a brilliant way to portray the messages that he wanted to give, and to create a vibe and feel and create a story out of this album. And I'm gonna go through like each song and basically try to describe what I felt and what I perceived from these songs and what he was trying to say, or how I could relate to them in whatever capacity. So we start off with Face Off, which is a trap soul genre, and it starts off with like these carnival sounds that bleed into his key voice. And right off the bat, even if you don't know the lyrics, you can tell that it has these aggressive, rebellious, intense undertones, and the way he talks is just, it just portrays frustration at oneself. Like, when you're too tired of yourself, and when you're in that headspace where you're just, hating everything around you and yourself, and you just want to be done. You're so done with everything. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to talk about it. And you're just like, whatever. That's the kind of vibe that this song gave. And I'm looking at the lyrics when, I focus on the lyrics. It really kind of does sort of play into the whole headspace that a lot of us were when the pandemic hit, because our lives were stuck here, right? We were stuck in this cycle of waking up every day, going to sleep, and in between, some of us had nothing to do. And that cycle of nothingness, that emptiness, it fueled the kind of hatred. It fueled all the negativity in us. And there were times when I hated myself. I felt pathetic. And then I hated myself more for letting these thoughts get to me, right? And there's like this verse in the song Face Off that I really love, and it goes like, look at yourself. Why do you want more things? But it's okay, because that suits you, babe. And then he goes on and says, tonight I don't want to be sober. Pour it up. It's all effing over. And then he goes, break it down. This is my usual story. Get it out. I'm screaming like crazy. So I've just translated the lyrics in English. But basically what he's trying to tell is the fact that just, when you're going through something so monotonous that you start hating it, you start hating being yourself, you question everything, and you just want to dissociate, you want to escape, because the reality is just not what you want it to be, and you can't do anything about it. You can't actively change it. So you're frustrated and you're angry at, and you don't even know what you're angry at. You don't know what you're actually frustrated at. So you just take it out on yourself. And I feel like a lot of us could relate to that feeling. So this song was really, I think it's in my top 3 favorite songs. I mean, there are only 5 songs on the album, so all of them are my favorites in some capacity, but this song really spoke to me because I could feel, I could just imagine him sitting in his singing booth and writing these lyrics, or wherever he was where he wrote these lyrics, and just thinking back and reflecting on that time where the world felt like it had frozen in spot, and you were the only person who was alive and free to do whatever they wanted, but you couldn't do it. You had all the time in the world but nothing to do, and that drove a lot of us crazy. I guess a lot of us felt very, very frustrated at life in those times, and this song has beautifully captured that self-hatred, that feeling of what the hell is going on? Why is this happening? That intensity, that aggression, that just frustration. This song really did sort of symbolize all of that. And then the next song plays, which is Interlude Dive. And I feel like that really is a plunge into the actual inner, darker, basically, thoughts and feelings that Jimin wanted to sort of portray. Because it starts off with, I feel like something is racing, like a car or an aeroplane sort of thing, and then all of a sudden it stops, and then you hear a knock, and then you hear just like there's this unintelligible chatter in the background, and it feels like when you're lost and you're just going through the routine on autopilot. That's the sort of vibe that it gave me, and then it slowly bleeds into a crowd cheering, that is basically armies cheering, and then Jimin in the background talking about how it's him and it's nice to meet them, and then you hear him panting as if he's running and if he's like in a maze, and then he's trying to, it felt like every single aspect of this interlude was basically, I imagined him being in a maze, and every turn he took there was something new coming at him. So he's seeing people chatter around in the background, then he sees armies, and then he's just basically lost. That's the feeling that I got from this interlude. And then it all sorts of builds up and up and up and up, and then it stops, and then you hear a fluid being poured, and then somebody glucking it down, and that's Jimin. And basically that was him finally giving into temptation and dissociating. And what did he choose? He chose alcohol for it. He chose drinking for it, because like you said in Face Off, that he did not want to be sober anymore because he wanted to escape. And so he's finally taken that sip and plunged into that headspace of not caring what the hell was going on. Okay, this next song I think I was most surprised about, because I have seen Jimin's sexier side. I've seen him being this sort of, alluring, this magnetic presence in other works. Like, he's acted like that. He's had this persona in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He's had this persona in Filter most recently. And he just exudes that sort of like, sexiness, that allure, that mysteriousness. And this song was that, but more. I don't know how else to describe that, because I watched the music video. This song is basically, a title track as well. So this music video just blew me away. I mean, I don't know. I mean, considering BTS, you always expect them to give their best and always come up with the most amazing, mind-blowing ideas and concepts. But considering the fact that this album is talking about so many different emotions, and this particular music video just, takes you on a roller coaster ride throughout. And I don't know whether to laugh or cry about the fact that it made me just feel so unsettled and called out at the same time, because that I don't know how to explain it, but the visuals, the concept, the subtleties in the portrayal of him being in this desolate what looked like a club, a restroom, and then him just being in the crowd, and everybody's blurred out and it's just him in the center, and the way they depicted the feelings, the emotions of being in a crowd but being alone, the feeling of longing, the feeling of wanting to run away, the feeling of wanting to escape but not being able to, the feeling of feeling pathetic because you can't run away, and because no matter how hard you try, your conscience sort of bleeds in. I am pretty sure that me talking about it is not doing it any justice. You need to go watch this music video on YouTube. It's called Like Crazy, for you to get the actual impact of the song, because the song alone is amazing. It has such a, you know, light, cheery vibe, and the genre is synth pop, so it's very easygoing, like a club song, you know, almost. And but at the same time, the lyrics are just they get to you. They really hit you so hard, and that's just, you know, an underlying theme with any BTS song, actually, not just Jimin, but they just have a way with words because they I don't even know, because sometimes I just can't comprehend the fact that these lyrics came from normal human beings, because they're not normal. And I mean that in the most respectful way ever. They are just out of this world. They are. So the song is actually inspired by the movie of the same name, like Crazy. And apparently, Jimin said that when he was writing the lyrics, he wanted to portray the sadness and, you know, the emotions of wanting to run away, escaping, so that you don't have to feel the pain to face reality. So that's the kind of vibe he was going for. And right off the bat, when he starts singing in the song, it's just, you know, it hits you. Like his voice really hits you. It's like a slap in the face, right? It wakes you up and you're just like, okay, where am I? What is going on? And it's kind of ironic because he wants you to escape, but then you're just like sitting there and you're very aware of his voice and what he's saying. And if you're watching the video, you're like, okay, wow, wow, because the visuals are amazing. The way they have showcased this, you know, lonely person sitting in his, you know, in his kitchen, to being pulled into this alternate sort of reality that his brain has conjured up, which happens to be a low lit, you know, a club where everybody's dancing and he's just having the time of his life. And, you know, it kind of portrays how sometimes when you're like, you know, frustrated and you're just sad, you think of, you know, things in your head. You make up scenarios in your head of being on a white sand beach and, you know, drinking martinis and stuff. So that was the kind of vibe they went for, and it played so well with the song. And I think one of my favorite lyrics from this song is the ending, where he goes like, "This will break me, this is gonna break me, no, don't you wake me, I want to stay in this dream." And then he goes like, "Don't you save me, don't you try to save me, I need a way we can dream on." So basically it's him trying to, you know, stay in the state, this euphoric state, the state where he is seeing everything in technicolor, in this, you know, state where he doesn't have to worry about anything. And don't we all want to do that? Don't we all want to just be happy in our little bubbles, you know, unbothered by everything that is happening in the world, just for even a moment, so that we don't feel the pain? And it's just our brain's way of trying to protect us. But ultimately, we know that we have to wake up. We can't be in this state forever, but it's just that idea that keeps us going. And basically, to connect it to the previous song, that's the interlude, this is basically Jimin in his haze after drinking and, you know, just, you know, all inhibitions lost. This is him in his most truest, honest form, where he's talking about, you know, how sometimes he doesn't know who he is anymore. And there's this line that, you know, I really loved in the song, which goes like, "Tika alton daral chakien molliun golka," which basically means that, have I come too far to find the me that you used to know? And that, you know, when you're in a vulnerable spot where you don't know what's going on. And I like to think that this song, oh, this entire album is basically him talking to himself, is him, you know, fighting his inner self. So all the things that he is addressing is to his inner self. So in this case, he's saying that he doesn't know if he's to come far to find that sort of familiarity that he so hopes, he so craves, because the normal before all of this happened was what he knew. But now that he's come so far, trying to find that, trying to go back there, he doesn't know if he's the same person, if he doesn't know if he will end up the same way that he was. It begs the question that, are we all ready to accept the fact that things change, that we change? Are we ready to accept that change? Are we ready to let go of the past? Are we ready to embrace, the present? Because, I mean, I don't know about other people, I don't know about you, but I do find it very hard to let go of the past. I feel like, yes, I do tend to live in the past more because that's what's familiar. That's what I've known. These are the feelings that I've already felt. And so sometimes I like to stay in that space. I don't want to be in the present. But you can't do that, right? And the song beautifully depicted that. This song beautifully picked on all those nuances and those thoughts. And yeah, I think this is one of my favorite, top 2 favorite songs. The next song that we have is called Alone, and this song, oh god, this song. So it's a melancholic R&B pop ballad, basically. And it starts off with the alarm bell ringing. And so as the story is progressing in this album so far, this is the point where he wakes up. He finally wakes up from that haze. He finally wakes up from that escaped reality he had run into, and now he's about to face the reality again. And this song is, I think, the most raw, the most honest he has been as an artist, as a person, with anyone. And I imagine him like, this is what he would probably be talking about when he's around somebody that he trusts, like, maybe another BTS member or his family or somebody he really loves and holds dear, because these are raw emotions. These songs, it feels like you're reading somebody's personal diary almost. And so I just, and the way this song, like, it's very soft, and he's just, it's I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like it had the most lyrical gems in it. There's this part where it's in the beginning actually, and he goes 술 취해 잠들고 기억이 나지 않을 때, when I'm drunk and I'm sleepy and I can't remember anything. 생각해봤어 지금 내가 뭘 하고 있는 건지, 왜 나만 이런 건지. He says that, when I think about it, about what am I doing, and why am I the only person who's like this? 아니, 모두가 그렇지. That, no, everybody's probably going through this. And 매번 괜찮은 척하는 내 모습이 한심하게 느껴져. And the fact that, the me that always tries to act like nothing is wrong now seems pathetic to me. And that is so deep. So deep. When I read the lyrics, I just had to pause for a second, because that hit, hard. They hit somewhere really deep. And it felt like a personal attack, because how many times have I sat down and, tried to compare my life to others, tried to make it about myself, tried to think that, oh, I'm the only person who's going through this, I'm the most, traumatized person on earth, I'm the, biggest loser on this planet and everything. And then I think about all those times when I was pretending that everything was okay, when deep down nothing was okay, nothing felt okay. And to me, that person who kept pretending felt like a freaking loser. And I feel like I'm pathetic because I keep pretending that I'm okay when I'm not. And this is, I think, as honest as you could get with yourself or anybody in that matter. So this song is particularly beautiful in that sense, where now in his journey to sort of, realize his true self, to face himself, he's come to the part where he's reflecting back, right? He's talking about all the things and all the times that he was not being truthful to himself. And now he's talking about the loneliness that he feels and how it feels like never ending. And then ultimately the song, I think the star of the album, for me at least, because Jimin said that he wanted this to be the first song that he releases, which he actually did before the album came out, Set Me Free Part 2. He wanted to release this first because it created that impact that he wanted, because it's a very assertive song. It's a very, I'm here and I'm gonna stay kind of song, right? So it's the kind of song you would play at the entrance of, I don't know, some wrestling match when Undertaker comes on stage. Like, that's the kind of vibe he was going for, and he achieved that because, oh my god, this music video is everything. And not just because of the way they've played with the colors, black and white, and the lighting and everything, and then Jimin in his leather jacket, being all aggressive, and all the dancers, moving in synchronization, and it's alluring. It's like mesmerizing. It's almost hypnotic the way they've staged this performance. So if you're curious, you should probably go watch the video. But also because of the artistic tools that he has used in this particular song, because this song has a whole orchestral vibe to it. Like, you have a choir in the background, then you have like layered auto-tuned, Jimin's voice basically, and then he has rapped in this song. Like, I was not expecting that. I mean, I think at this point there's nothing that BTS can't do, right? But for Jimin to just straight up start rapping, I was like, okay, hold up, Park Jimin, what? What? But yeah, that was a pleasant surprise, actually. And I think if you want to have the full experience of the song, you should definitely watch it with the music video, because I think the choreography is a very vital part of what the song depicts. So, this is the song, this is the part in his journey where he is now done with the self loathing, he's done with questioning himself, he's done with the self doubt, and he's ready to fight. He's ready to assert his presence, and he's ready to take what he wants from the world. And it talks about not caring about what other people think, and not hiding from other people even if it hurts. And it talks about, it also gives a nod to one of their BTS, one of their group songs called On, where they talk about going insane to stay sane. So this is him basically accepting his insanity, because that's the way he has survived, and it's okay, and he's no longer going to be, you know, harassed by it. He's not going to let it chain him, and he's going to fight for the freedom. And this music video, and is amazing. You have to watch it to get the full experience, because I could only talk about so much, but watching it, I am losing my voice, by the way. It just happens when I've been constantly talking. But anyways, you have to listen and view this for yourself to understand this whole, being reborn sort of idea that he has portrayed in the music video and in the song as well. So it's very impactful. It's a very energized, very aggressive sort of song, but not the aggression that we saw in the first song, Face Off. This is the kind of determined aggression where nobody can mess with me anymore. I know that, I am not flawless, but I'm not going to be monopolized by that. I'm not going to be manipulated by that anymore. And that, for him to acknowledge and say, hits differently, particularly because as an army, I have seen him struggle with his image, with the way he thinks the world saw him. And it always hurt to see him, be so conscious of how people, saw him and what they thought of him. And he was very sensitive about these things since the very beginning. And for him to just, come out and be like, I don't care anymore, I'm gonna be me, and this is who I am, and I love myself for that. This journey of self-love that he's been on, it makes me so proud as an army to watch him bloom, to watch him grow, to watch him accept himself and love himself the way he does. And I think I'm gonna start crying now. So I'll stop here. And then the album ends with the last song, which is Like Crazy, and it's the English version of the song. And I feel like, I don't know why I prefer the Korean songs over the English songs. I mean, they make amazing music. They've made music in so many different languages, including Japanese, and that's a whole different world. Okay, BTS Japanese music is a whole different world, and I could talk about that in a different episode altogether because there's so much to talk about. But anyways, I prefer their Korean songs more because it's just the language and the way they portray different feelings in that particular language that I feel like English could never encompass. So I definitely prefer. Anyway, so if I were to choose my favorite song off this album, I think it will be Like Crazy. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. It just is. It's been stuck in my head for the past, I don't know, 5 hours since I've heard this, but I just can't stop. Like it's embedded. The MV is embedded in my head because of how impactful it was, how much I resonated with it. There's this one scene when he's in the hallway and there's like this black gray goo coming out of the walls. It was so good. Like the idea, the whole metaphor that it was of how your conscience is bleeding into your thoughts, even when you're trying to run away and when you're trying to escape. But there's this darkness that creeps in when you're trying to pretend to be happy, when you're in this bubble, but all of this negativity and all these thoughts are trying to crush you or trying to bleed into the crevices of your mind. That was so beautifully visualized, and I loved it. I loved every single look he had on this album, on the sketches, on the software version, the hardware version, the photo concepts, and it actually, the concept photos, okay, the concept photos were a whole deal within themselves because you get to see him, basically it's a portrait shot and then he has thorns coming out of his side, his eyebrows, his ears, and his neck. And in the software version you see him in this fluffy cardigan sort of thing, and it showcases two different ends of a spectrum, and it showcases how he's he's vulnerable, but then he's also healing from that. So it was it was a lot to take in, and I loved it. I loved every second of this whole the way he's gone about it so methodically. So it almost felt like a BTS comeback, the way he's gone about it, and it just brought back so many memories of previous BTS comebacks where they do this whole schedule where they release concept photos and then track list reveal, and then they have teasers for the music video, and then they release the music videos themselves, and then they do these interactions. So he's gone about it in the more traditional way, and it has been amazing, and it suits him because he's the kind of person who really likes to stick to the traditions. He's very big on that. So it has been a whole journey so far, and I loved every second of it, and I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud of Namjoon, and I'm so proud of J-Hope for their music that they released, and I miss Jin so much. And yeah, the other ones, Min Yoongi, he's preparing for his tour right now, and I guess a lot of people are going to be attending that. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to be in my room pretending that I don't exist, basically, because BTS has no idea Pakistan exists, and even if they did, I don't think that it's a good idea for them to come here at this very minute. Yeah, a lot of stuff happening down here. Anyways, and Jungkook, my man. This guy is adorable because he's just living in his happy little bubble, doing the things that he loves, coming on at like 4 in the morning, cooking food, and just, having a breakdown over it as well. That was hilarious, by the way. He just randomly came on 2 days ago, and in the middle of the night, it was like 4 a.m. in Korea at that point, and then he was cooking. He said that he was so sleepy, but he was so hungry that he couldn't sleep, so he prepared a whole dish, and then he just kept adding random things that he could find in his pantry. And then he was trying to justify all of that. He was like, he pelted a whole slice of cheese into his stew, and then he goes like, "We're gonna call it diet cheese because it's on top of vegetables." And I was like, that was hilarious. And then he was just, he has this thing where he gets aggressive, like, he makes these angry faces when he's enjoying his food. So he did that. He basically fell off. He literally went out of frame because he was enjoying his food so much, and he was fist bumping the air and everything. And then he just ate his food, enjoyed his food, and then he tried to play the guitar, and he kept messing up because he was so sleepy. So he just tried to rewind everything by doing it sounds weird, that sound, but yeah, that's what he did. That was his idea of how to undo life, basically. And then he just went off. So that was really random, but really nice. And then Taehyung has a whole show going on, like a cooking show thing where, it's called Sojin's Kitchen, and he's been having like his own little journey of basically learning how to be part of a restaurant. And it's just adorable watching him on that show as well. So it's a reality TV show sort of thing. Is it called a reality TV? It's entertainment. It's pure entertainment. That's all I know. And I love him and Wushik and their little bond that they have. Actually, all of them. The Wuka squad. They're all amazing. So I think, yeah, I'm not missing out anyone, right? I've talked about everything. Namjoon is, currently just enjoying his life, I guess. I hope that he's happy, and he basically had a song with Soyoon come out, Smoke Sprite, recently, and that was so good. So good. Oh my god. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think that's all. That's all from me for now. I just want to say that if you've listened to me rant and talk about this album so far, thank you so much. And please support BTS. Please stream their music on Spotify, Apple, wherever you want. Just stream, and YouTube as well, of course. And I love being an ARMY. And I love Park Jimin. Park Jimin 사랑해. ARMY fighting. Bye bye.